read his book. It's a good one to read if you haven't. But he talks about it in great detail and about the miking techniques and the drums in particular. They took the bottom heads off, put calfskin heads on the top, and put towels on them and stuff like that. And you know, the results just can't be denied. And I want to say, from the Beatles, as far as songwriting, listening to them as a kid, listening to them cover Roll Over Beethoven and stuff, all these old rhythm and blues stuff. I didn't even know that the Beatles didn't do it. Yeah. So by listening to the Beatles and going back, I went backwards from right there and rediscovered all that, including the New Orleans stuff that was happening. And then really got into that, which is my blood. That's in the mud there, and I absorbed it from the mud. The funkiness, the soulful tribalness of all the rhythms, and the real catty kind of poetic vocals like Dr. John, lyrics, and Alan Toussaint, et cetera, et cetera.
Nevis.
Yes. Anybody else?
Influence-wise, I'm from Oklahoma, and by the way, notice how when they talk about their influence, there's a geographic connection. New Orleans. For me, it was Oklahoma. So J.J. Cale was in Tulsa, and Leon Russell was in Tulsa. And I was down in Oklahoma City hearing about these guys, and basically just jealous, trying to outdo them, but that wasn't going to happen. So, yeah, if you listen to, another thing that comes up when they're describing influences is their recording techniques. And J.J. Cale was a gigantic recording aficionado, besides a entertainer. And in fact, that's how he made his living in LA for a long time. So a lot of the people that we're influenced by, it was the recording was part of their career.
It's a really big question you ask. Okay. By the way, it's great to see you kids here. All right. And here we are, a bunch of old men up front. Students. Okay. I guess we're all students until we hit the grave, right? I'm Brent Hawley. I play 6 instruments, and one of the things that always I started off in folk music, the Kingston Trio, the folk scare, back in the 60s. But then I got into bluegrass music in the concept of flat picking bluegrass instrumentals. I do that on guitar and mandolin, and would go off to all these festivals. But one of the great things that we all learned from our college roommates or our roommates. We steal licks from them, they steal from you. And different styles of music. And Tom Eaton showed, we got into jazz rhythm guitar playing, and who Django Reinhardt was, who George Barnes was. Homer and Jethro, you heard me talk about them. Look them up on YouTube. It'll knock you out. Comedy, entertainment. It's not about all hot licks, okay? And so I always gravitated in music jams to play whatever instrument was not being played. If there's 3 guitar players, they don't need me playing guitar. Maybe I'll play bass, okay? So I learned how to play those instruments, and in different bands, whether it was a swing-oriented kind of thing. I had a mandolin orchestra, 13-piece orchestra called Mandolin, and I'm going to give you guys a CD that won an award. I forgot to bring them, but anyway.
You'll give them to me, I'll give them to you, right?
Whatever. But anyway, different kinds of music. Open your eyes to different things. Songwriting, I'm a big fan of Steve Goodman from Chicago, who wrote The City of New Orleans, who wrote an incredible amount of great songs. And it's about lyrics, being a wordsmith, and finding clever things to write about. And now I'm starting to write songs that as I perform them for people, I'm seeing them waiting for every word that's about to come out of my mouth. As a solo player, I don't play in bands anymore because of hearing problems. But that's my influences. They're wide all over the place. I was never a rock and roller.
Well, I love all kinds of music, but specifically when I started playing, I spent hours and hours and hours playing along with recordings by a bunch of 70s country people like Merle Haggard, Buck Owens and Waylon Jennings, and then all the way up through Billy Joe Shaver. So all that stuff is pretty sparse in terms of the parts, but those people were so locked down and so precise that it's just mind-boggling when I listen to it. And then on top of that, learning all that stuff forced me to learn chord progressions and stuff like that. So that basically, I'm gonna sound a lot like whoever was playing with Merle Haggard in 1971. That's my go-to comfort.
I have one last thing I'd like to add. Simplicity goes a long way. Duke Ellington was a great one for less is more, space between the notes. This is if you're a musician. And I've been around some of the younger bluegrassers, and they can't play enough notes. And it's just endless buzzsaw. And after the second song, I'm bored to tears, okay? And cut it by two-thirds. And what happens is when you're hearing that, all those notes just don't mean anything anymore. And if you slow it down, it's about a message, a story, but calm it down. And I came away from a party this weekend with that really ringing in my head saying, all that stuff, and I used to be that. When you're younger, you got testosterone in your fingerboard.
Ben.
Okay? and you got to show how hot you are. It's not what it's all about, okay? It's sending a message. There you go, Tom.
That's called being paid by the note. Guys play like they go, you're paid by the note. So that simplicity is so important. In the studio, by the engineer also. So, okay, next question. We'll move that
Who's
back.
next? Somebody right there was. Thank you.
In the early 2000s, you guys worked on a show called
Would you speak
Treme.
speak up a little more,
Yeah.
please?
In the early 2000s, you guys worked on a show called Treme. How accurate would you say that show was to the New Orleans music scene, and are there any things you miss about that scene?
He did his homework.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say it was very, very accurate, actually. The only thing that wasn't accurate was the place that they pretended to be Tipitinas wasn't actually Tipitinas. But yeah, I mean, they had all the New Orleans artists on there, and John had a chance to play with some other people besides the Subdudes. Subdudes got a chance to play it one night, and I don't know. You have anything to add to that?
No, that's a really good question, but because there's been a lot of movies about New Orleans, but I think most people agree that Treme had the real feel, like the grit of New Orleans, and
Cool.
just all the things that kind of go into making New Orleans music great, which is there's a lot of humor to New Orleans music, and weirdly, kind of a lot of tragedy too, in a way. Like New Orleans is known as your party town, but beneath that, there's a lot that maybe isn't all that pretty, and I think that Treme really captured that character.
Well said. Yeah, that was it.
Can you tell us what Tipitinas was like in the 80s?
Steve used to work there.
Yeah. I used to wash dishes there, and on Monday night they'd have a red bean night, and if it was really crowded, I'd end up being a waiter too. I got to serve Stevie Ray Vaughan and his band red beans. It was sweaty, smelled like beer. It had some history in it. It was a place that was once used by KKK, I hear.
Really?
Yeah, at one time, or some organization of the like. The ceilings were low hung ceilings.
Cigarette smoke?
Cigarette smoke permeated the place. Yeah, rotten beer and cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
Classic bar.
And then and then it all changed. They closed it. It was closed for a couple of years. They vaulted the ceiling and made it this cathedral-like building, sort of, the way the roof is.
Yeah.
But it always had that vibe, though. It always had just this great vibe.
Well, I think like a lot of American music is a combination of white people and black people getting together. And that was really true about Tipitina's, and because I'm from Colorado, but I got to New Orleans in '74, and soon after that they were just a bunch of young white music lovers, especially that loved Professor Longhair, and that started to club up. And I think their intent of their love of music and wanting to bring out a lot of these black performers who were forgotten. Like, I don't know if you know Professor Longhair. He's a piano player that he really defines the New Orleans sound, because he's got this rumba in the playing. Like New Orleans, its blues has this rumba in it. And so Professor Longhair at that time, when I moved there in '74, he was just sweeping up a record shop and had been kind of forgotten. And so these young white kids, and they had to make sure there was 14 of them, because that was a magic voodoo number, 14. So I thought that's why it was really successful, is because they weren't about business, they were just about the love of music. And Tipitina is a lyric from Professor Longhair's song. And one thing I think they do with New Orleans songwriting is they use these, what do you call it, nonsensical, like that song, Tipitina, Ula Walla Mala Nala, and it went on like that. That's real New Orleans.
Kind of like what you do when you're trying to write lyrics. You get one thing to say, and you make big syllables for all the words you can't have.
Yeah.
But who else?
Next question.
Jesse Hill. First off, thanks to all of you for the performance and the opportunity to help out and all that. Really appreciate it. And Steve, two-part question. What made you decide to master the tambourine? And what advice do you have for getting the most out of something simple like that?
It came out of necessity, being on the gig, on the stage the first time, and being scared, not knowing what to do. We got together at Tipitina's, was our first gig, to be on John's gig. John invited us to come in. I'm covering the microphone. John invited us, me and Johnny Ray and Tommy Malone, to come down and sing harmony and sing. We had done some singing on occasion for some other times that we played music, and we had good chemistry in singing harmony. So that was the idea behind the first time we got together. But the tambourine. Tommy brought a tambourine to the first gig, and I was just going to sit there and look goofy and sing with these guys, but here's this tambourine here. So our friend sound man put a microphone on it, and during the course of playing, whatever way my hand would lay on the head, way I'd hit it, make a different sound. And the first recording of the first time we ever played was just great, Tambourine was like, wow, that sounds way good. And so it all just developed from there. And from there, after a couple of gigs, doing it that way, just using my hand, you know, developed a really sore hand, hitting that thing all night. So you have to find something to hit it with. So the first thing I tried was a wooden spatula. So played a couple of games with that. It worked good. It worked better than a hand, you know. So one night we went going to do a set, and I couldn't find my spatula. So in a panic fit, I went to my drum stick bag and got a blast stick. This thing here. It's a brush with plastic instead of metal wires, and it all developed from there. You know, just from trial and error, cranking up real loud, and using it had a lot to do with it. That was the main thing, but just figuring out how developing technique to try to make it sound like the drum set sounded like.
Could I expound on that?
Yeah.
Would you just pick that up and show them how you can do like different notes on it? So there's like the kick and the snare. So kick is when it has no damper on it. And then with his thumb he can make different.
However strong your thumb is how many different sounds you can get out of it.
So the interesting thing is how you hear that instrument right like that, but the microphone was really part of the instrument. Because if you put the mic on, turn that bass way up, and turn the whole thing way up, what happened was this was a phenomenon that this was our only drum kit. He made the whole sound of a drum kit on this, and we lived for decades on that as our drummer. And it was not only just as good as a drums, I think it was better in a way that it made him be more primitive. Like there's only so much you can do with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it got really down to the nitty gritty of the groove.
Right.
And to go back that night that we were playing a week before they came to my piano gig at Tipitina's. What happened is we were playing in a band that was called the Continental Drifters, and we were all just loud as hell. Like I had a keyboard bank, you know. Our guitar player Tom had a huge ass amp, and you know he had drums, and we were just really loud. And at the end of the show, you know, wives are really good for this. I asked my wife, well, how was it? You know, because everybody was, oh yeah, that's great. She said, well, you're way too loud. You know, she said, if you might have good songs, but nobody can tell because you're playing so damn loud. And she said, you might have good singing, but nobody can tell. So I went up to the bar and I told Tommy, guitar player, and I said, we should just try, you know, we need to feature our vocals because that's what we really do good. We had all these harmonies, but we were burying them. And I said, we should just play in, you know, a subdued way. You know? And so the word came out, okay, well, we'll be the subdudes. And it wasn't so much, it was, what was important about that was that it made the vocals feature. Because we were, as a lot of rock bands do, we were overplaying our vocals. So his, actually, what he did there kind of set the whole scheme for our band, really.
And then there was the accordion.
And accordion instead of a keyboard band.
And their guitar player was a legend also.
Yeah. He was pretty good.
Next question.
I have a little bit of a two-parter. So obviously you guys have been playing, you know, since the 80s, and I'm curious how your songwriting sort of method has evolved, and also if you have advice for composing music with other people and how to do that in like the most effective way.
I do have ideas
You
on
just,
that.
you just
as
long
far
ride
as-
sage here.
Yeah. I have always really liked collaboration. And I have written a lot of songs of my own, but I also feel like, and I think Lennon and McCartney kind of did this. If I hear, somebody else has a good basis of a song, then I can think of things to kind of finish it out, like maybe if it needs a bridge or it needs work on the chorus or something. But yeah, I'm a real believer in collaboration and accidents. Just kind of like take everything that happens. Well, you get sort of addicted to the songwriting ideas where everything that happens in your life, oh, there's a song, there's a bit of a song, so. Anybody else have anything?
Because I'm mostly by myself these days in the music world, I can't give up music. So I gotta play, or I might as well just go away. But every morning, coffee maker switches on at 6. I'm in my music room, 20 after 6, sitting in on this little table, Tom's been there, and I got all my pictures, it's my world around me on the wall, and I have instruments around me, and I'll start playing, and the key thing is my iPhone has a voice memo application. So what often happens is first thing in the morning, the very first thing's out, usually I'm playing guitar. And oftentimes the very first thing I'm just improvising, like the notes are coming out, and oftentimes things I've never thought of in my life. And if 20 seconds in I go, man, I'll stop, I'll turn on the voice memo, and I'll do that so I remember it now. And I'll mess around with it and then develop it for a while. And then it goes, and I'll give it a name. And it could have a name that says Slowpoke Morning or something, I don't know, who knows what, or Rumba in E minor or something. I have over 380 entries in my phone now. How do you write songs from that? When you listen through it, you're out working in the yard, I got through my hearing aids, I can hear these things. I go, hey, that's worthy. And that's kind of would fit with that idea over there. And that other idea that I did months before that, they can be friends and they can be put into the same song. And let me tell you, so these are usually instrumentals, but they also lend themselves to the body of a song that can have words put to it. And I did it with Tim Cook. I gave him a bunch of song bit ideas and he wrote some words.
Tim is the other subdude that didn't make this one, but you guys are gonna do an overdub with Tim.
So a key thing is how, if you get a unique idea, how do you keep it and not forget it? The voice memo is the wonderful answer. And nowadays you can even overdub on top of it. It's amazing. Who gets it next?
Next question?
Brent, you mentioned a technique called flat picking.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what that is?
Up and down, up and down, up and down.
Sure.
I'll give you 10 seconds of it for sure. Instead of like flamenco or classical guitar players using their bare fingers or even finger picks, this is a flat pick, also called a plectrum if you're reading the Mel Bay book.
Which says this is the pick.
That's right.
Page
But
one.
so it's
So it's like
That's
down and
flat
upstroke.
it's down up, and also we're tremolo. That's used in different style in classical, or Some bluegrassers are using, yeah, for sure. That's what flat picking is, and it's a big world. You know, Billy Strings is a flat picker, you all know that. He's a great flat picker. So, there's your answer.
Do you guys think the use of a tambourine instead of a full drum kit, did it help define your sound? And do you think it changed how you wrote your songs?
Yes, definitely, yeah. Like I was saying, something about the tambourine had more primitive feel to it, and so that worked right into the kind of rhythms that we liked. And yeah, there are a lot of people, you know, you basically can come at songwriting from a lyrical point, but I think us in a lot in New Orleans, it's like you're supposed to have great rhythms and make people dance. That's kind of like #1. So we kind of came out of that tradition, and really a lot of our songs I think started with the group first. So, and that had to do with the grooves that he was making for tambourine. Yeah, it really did define our sound.
Steve, I got a question. Have you heard of anybody else copying your style?
They can't touch
It's the
this.
ultimate compliment, right? If somebody tried to copy you.
There's a couple of people around the country that are doing it. There's just one guy in Annapolis that's doing it.
Okay.
But there's so many guys that are.
He hunts them down.
There's so many guys, particularly like the Indian musicians that are just do frightening stuff with it. You know, that make me embarrassed. You know, for the highlighting on me. You know, what I do is easy. Another thing, but it was, you know, you always want your sound to be different. You always want to have some way to make your sound different from everything else. That tambourine definitely did that. You know, we had an instantly identifiable sound because of that. You know.
One of the students wanted to know who are some of the famous musicians that you got to perform with?
Personally, I went out to Joni Mitchell's place in L.A. And hung out a weekend and recorded with her, and her husband Larry Klein, and guitarist Stuart Smith. That was a trip. I still can't believe that happened. We did some Sean Colvin. We did a couple of tracks with her on a record. Patty Larkin, we did some recording with her. Mark Cohn, we recorded some with him. It never ended up not being used, but we recorded with him. Who else? Am I missing anybody?
Bonnie Raitt.
Oh, Bonnie Raitt. Yeah. We got to sing Angel from Montgomery with Bonnie Raitt in Birmingham, England, and that was a highlight. That was a highlight of my musical career. Anybody else?
I don't know. We got to open for a lot of good people. Like when our first record, Melissa Etheridge took us on a countrywide tour, and then we went on another countrywide tour with Huey Lewis, and also
your
with
girl, Katie Lang.
Katie Lang.
Did
Yeah,
you say
and
Huey Lewis?
yeah.
There's a rock band.
And Stevie Winwood in Traffic. Yeah.
Did you do any collaboration with Los Lobos?
We didn't ever
Or
collaborate
not
with
that,
Los
but
Lobos.
you-
We did we ended up on a lot of festivals with them.
That's Tyson's favorite band.
Oh, yeah. They're great.
I think we gotta wrap it up, guys.
I've got one thing I would like to add. Because this is modeled after the record, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? You guys kind of apparently have studied the history of that, who was on it and everything. You know the name of the fiddler? He had that neat fiddle with an old man with a beard's head carved into the headstock, into the peg head. His name was Vassar Clements, and he was the thing for a number of years.
Go-to player.
He was, I lived with him and played with him in Chicago in that 1970.